my Navy SEALs down here can't sit and negotiate what needs to be done. I said, well, what is that? He said that the head trafficker has a piece of property that he wants to develop into a Jeffrey Epstein Island type of a thing. He needs about $8 million to put it together. He believes he can make tens of millions of dollars a year selling these victims to rich Americans.
A leader has to take the risks. Paul. What's up, Mr. Paul? How you doing?
Daniel, how are you?
Mr. Paul, how you doing, man?
I am so good. So good.
All right.
Excited to spend time with you.
Well, I'm super excited to spend time with you. I heard that you are the real live Batman. So for me, I'm fired up, man. I'm feeling really good.
So my question is, are you still a cartoonist? You want to put one like with me and you together? You're Superman, I'm Batman, and
you know what? I think that's a great idea, man. We did good together, right? I'm wearing black. You're wearing white. My background's white. Your background's black. So
perfect.
We are
question, do you want me to get rid of my liberating humanity behind me? So is that okay there? You good with it?
It's awesome, man. It looks incredible, man. Looks awesome.
Perfect.
I'm like I said, super excited meeting you and having you on Wealth on the Beach podcast. It's people like you that I do what I do. This is why I love what I do. I think we're on our 5th year now. I've interviewed over 250 people, but you're the kind of people that keep me coming back because really, I mean, you're a successful business owner. You built some big giant companies and of course you're the executive producer of Sound of Freedom, which, we're going to talk a lot about that as well. But how did you, what was your life like growing up? Like, what kind of kid were you?
Well, I was typical. I mean, we weren't wealthy. I didn't even have furniture in our living room before when I got married. And I was beat up, bullied as a kid. I remember one day I came back from being bullied, and I said to my mom, I said, Mom, I want to be a brain surgeon when I grow up. And she's like, oh, why? Why do you want to be a brain surgeon? I says, because I need to change how people think, right? And eventually actually changed that to wanting to be a heart surgeon. I realized that the key to fixing things like bullying wasn't fixing their brain, but it was fixing their heart. And I was honest about that. I continued. I wanted to be a pediatric cardiologist and went all the way through my pre-med classes and right before taking the 𝐓𝐘, got in a major car accident and severed the tendons in my hand. And they said, yeah, I don't know if I have the dexterity to be a surgeon. And they said, you can be a regular doctor. And this will tell you kind of how I was. I said, a regular doctor. I said, I don't want to be a regular anything. I said, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a surgeon. I don't want to be just a surgeon. I want to be a heart surgeon, not just a heart surgeon, but one that operates on children, right? I wanted to be the best of the best of the best. I said, if my purpose in life is to be a garbage man, I'm going to own the dump. That's just how I think. So changed my major to business and finance and boom, created something great.
All right. So you were how old when you went into business?
6.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Seriously, I told my dad, I says, I want to build a store in our front yard. And he's like, no, we're not going to build a store. He said, what are you going to sell? I said, I don't know, just stuff. I want to build one. And he wouldn't let me do that, but he helped me get a little worm business started. I literally had a worm business. I had a whole thing that I would grow them and I was selling them to the fishermen and whatnot as they went by. And so that was when I was 6. And then, by the time I was 12, I had a company that was mowing lawns and hired a bunch of the neighbors to work for me and whatnot. But fast forward, after the car accident, I realized that I wasn't going to go and just run the risk of not being able to be a surgeon. I changed my major to business and finance, and I had a mentor. And he said to me, Paul, why did you want to be a doctor anyway? And I jokingly said, well, I don't know. I want the money. I'll go to school for 12 years so I can have a Ferrari. And he laughed. He said, you've got a unique gift with people. He said, so much so that I'm willing to be your mentor. He said, for the long run. He said, if you do what I teach you to do, you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 30 and you'll have the time to enjoy it. And I said, okay, what do I do? He said, well, you need to quit your job at the hospital because that's not in line with where you want to be. He said, every good business owner knows how to sell. He says, you've got to learn how to sell. You've got to learn how to handle rejection. And it's got to be second nature to you. It can't affect you emotionally at all. He says, so I suggest you get a job for the highest rejection jobs you can find. I ended up working at a call center, cold calling, 300 employees selling children's videos, hang up, hang up, hang up. And I joined Amway. I mean, what more rejection can you get, right? The value in those things is that the Amway business gave me the education program of books and tapes. And the only thing that was really valuable from that is learning that the most valuable piece of real estate that I would ever own is the 6 inches between my ears. That if I read a book once a month, and if I listened to an audio program once every day, 3 months from now, nobody will know that I'm doing it. 3 years from now, everybody in my inner circle will know that I've been doing it because I will have changed so much. 30 years from now, most of the world will know that I've been doing it because I will have made such a powerful impact on humanity. And so that's what I got from being in the MLM side. On the call center side, I learned how to handle rejection. I learned how to sell and ended up starting my first company at 21 years old, the one that I sold when I was 29 for $20 million.
Well, I'll tell you, you are like the epitome of the entrepreneurial spirit, like nobody's business. And I have a feeling me and you are going to become very, very good friends because our stories align very, very closely.
I was reading yours. You became a millionaire before me. You were like 26, 27. So you beat me by like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. But I didn't sell my company at 29. So, but no, I'm actually still running the same company that I've had since 21. So I'm just, it's just a passive income thing now for me. But I love when people talk about the fact that self-improvement is what is the change, man. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, I'm not the same person I was at 21 years old. And thank God, there are people that still act the same that they were, than they were at 21 years old. They're like the same people and they're 50 years old now.
I've got friends. I'm 53 years old. I've got friends that are in the same job they had in junior high school. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Yeah, well, my uncle owned this printing company and he's still printing, pushing the buttons. I'm like, do you have no motivation? And here's the thing though. I'm not going to judge him. If that's what he enjoys, if he likes doing the same thing and just brainless whatever and every day coming home and watching TV, that's okay. I'm not going to judge him. Don't judge me for buying 2 helicopters, right? The key is, what do you want in your life? All you have to do is decide what it is that you want, whatever it is, decide what it is that you want, and you can do, be, and create anything. In fact, one of the most inspirational stories, right after I sold my company, back up. When I got in the major car accident, my wife, and this is my first wife, she was a model for McCarty's. They do like the swimsuit issue for Sports Illustrated. She was a dancer on the Crimson Line at the University of Utah. She was 112 pounds, 5'9", skinny, cute. And we got in that car accident and I severed the tendons in my hand. She broke her pelvic bone. She wasn't able to exercise, wasn't able to dance. She started putting on weight. And then we got pregnant with twins. And then she put on more weight. And then we got pregnant with another little boy. She put on more weight. So fast forward 29 years old. And this is so important for you entrepreneurs. 29 years old, mother of 3. She was 29. By now I was 31. I had, retired from that company and I was, speaking, mentoring young entrepreneurs, et cetera. And she heard me at one of these events. And she's 230 pounds at this point. And she heard me speaking at this event, and she on the way home, she said, Paul, I was listening to you and I was inspired and I want to do something great with my life. And I asked her the same question I asked these entrepreneurs. I said, if time and money were no issue, you had all the time and the money in the world, and you knew you couldn't fail, what would be your dream? Because that's really what it is. If nothing was in your way, you knew you couldn't fail, what would be your dream? She looks down, she goes, you're going to laugh at me. I said, I will not. She said, since I was a little girl, I wanted to be an NFL cheerleader. Now, we live in Utah. We don't have an NFL team. She's 29 years old. I don't know of any girls that are over 22 in the NFL. She's 230 pounds, mother of three, right? And I said, I look at her, I'm like, you go, girl, right? And I realized she was serious. That's what she said. I danced at a halftime game when I was 14 at a 49ers game. And I looked at the girls and I thought, wow, it'd be so amazing to do that. And so, here I just finished telling these entrepreneurs that they could be, do, and have anything that they dream. They just have to decide what it was. And so who was I to say that she couldn't do it? So it was in December, and for Christmas that year, I gave her a picture. I went online and I found a photo of a 49ers cheerleader in the outfit with hair similar to Tiffany, but of course her face was different. And I put Adobe Photoshop, I put Tiffany's face on there, right? So it looked like her. I put at the bottom, Tiffany Hutchinson, San Francisco 49ers Gold Rush cheerleader, and I framed it and I gave it to her. She started crying when she got it. She put it on her bedstand, and every night before she went to bed, she sat it and she held it and just looked at it, visualized it. Guys, the most important thing you can do with any of your goals and dreams is clear visualization. She visualized being that in that body, in that role. Every morning before she got out of bed, she focused on it. 2 or 3 minutes before her feet touched the floor, she looked at that picture. She started exercising. It motivated her to exercise 2 to 4 hours every day for the next year. She went from 230 pounds back down to her pre-wedding weight of 112. There was 500 girls trying out for the 49ers that year. 3 spots available. She was the first pick. She was the only girl over 25 years old, only girl. Man, it cost me like $60,000 in plane tickets just to fly her back for the practices 3 times a week. But what 31-year-old wouldn't give 60 grand to have his 19-year-old wife back, right? So the principle of this story is all you have to do is decide what you want. Once you decide it and you visualize it and you hold it, you can literally create anything in your life.
And this is it, man. I mean, this is the story of law of attraction, man. This is quantum physics at its, at its best. So I love stories like that because I feel like people need to realize that they're never too old. I mean, most of the time. I mean, they're just not too old to make changes in their life. They can do anything if they want it bad enough, right? I mean, if you with passion and courage and discipline and some focus, anything you think about could become your reality. And so I think it's just it's a mindset for most people. Would you say it's just? I mean, is this what you see throughout your time, that it's just the mindset that holds people back?
Well, and that mindset can change in an instant. In an instant, you read the story of I don't know how much of this is true, but this is pretty powerful. This old guy, he was 65 years old. He got his first retirement check. It was like $130. He was depressed, decided, you know what, I'm done. I'm checking out. This is all I have to show for my life. And he went and he got a piece of paper and he was writing supposedly his last will and testament of why I need to check out because I failed. And as he was writing it, he was writing all the things he should have done in his life. He's 65, right? Shoulda. And one of them was, I have this amazing recipe that I never used. I never created, never did anything with it. And he thought, you know what? I still can. This recipe is for chicken. This was Colonel Sanders, 65 years old, broke, right? By the time he was 80 something, he's a billionaire. So it's never too late. It's never too late. All you have to do is have that mindset change and somehow that motivation that drives you. And you've got to find something that I tell guys and my young entrepreneurs, I said, guys, if you're waking up to an alarm clock, you don't have a big enough dream, right? You've got to have something that just motivates you. Your eyes wake up in the morning and you're like, yes, I got it. I'm going to hit this thing. I'm going to roll. You've got to have it, or whatever that dream is. It's okay. It's okay to want a nice house and nice cars and nice planes and everything else. It's okay. However, for me, I used things, cars and vision boards and all this stuff. I used things to motivate myself to do the right thing long enough for me to realize the right reason to be doing it. And the right reason isn't things, it's making a difference. Now, it's okay. Still have a beautiful lifestyle. But if you get to that point and you are not making a powerful, positive impact in the lives of others, then everything else won't matter and you will be miserable. So make sure that's part of your equation from the beginning.
Beautiful. Well said. All right, $20 million, you sell your company. What do you do with $20 million? Kind of walk. I want you to, this is Wealth on the Beach podcast. So I want you to walk me through a little bit of like, what does somebody do? You get $20 million on your lap. What do you do? What's the next thing you do?
Well, I was 29 and first things first, it wasn't 20 million cash. I wish it was, it was 20 million on paper. And to me, that was success at the time. Right. And it was restricted stock in a company, OTC cash exchange company. I didn't know that world. I thought, oh, look how rich I am. But really now I had some cash, enough to work with and to make a difference. And I started investing with that cash that I had in real estate. And then I realized that I didn't know shit about real estate. If I didn't hire smarter guys than me, I was going to lose all my money in real estate. I was doing spec houses. I was doing all this, stuff that I thought the world would be perfect forever. And the company that had bought me out was having some issues with purchase order financing. They were buying products from Asia, and they needed to be able to float that until they had their delivery to like a big box store, Best Buy, whatever else. And so me and a business partner, John Pennington, started a company called Bridge Loan Capital with some of my money and some of his that did short-term bridge loans, asset-based lending. And we were lending on he knew how to make sure I didn't lose a container full of iPods from one country to another and make sure that we got paid. But we were charging a pretty good return. It was funny. I was how I actually got into that. I had a friend that was he was in charge of the counting the money that was donated from our church at the time in our congregation. And he said, you know who the richest person in our neighborhood is? I said, who? I mean, we had some big houses in our neighborhood. And he told me about this guy. I said, really? He said, he makes 10 times more than anybody else. I said, well, what does he do? He said, he's a fund manager. I said, well, what's a fund manager? I had no idea. No. He said, oh, hold on. Crap. Push the wrong. Hold on a second. My microphone. Okay, now we're on. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
You might have to edit that one
because
I touched the wrong cord.
No worries.
So I said, what's a fund manager? He goes, well, this is a guy who he takes some of his own money and then he takes other people's money, puts it all together and invests it in things. And then he makes money not only on his own, but he makes money on other people's money too. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, right? And so John and I started putting together this fund, Bridge Loan Capital, that put a bunch of different investors together. And I remember in the beginning, people ask John now, they say, John, did you see it? I mean, the company, when I retired, was over $10 billion in assets under management. It's continued to grow. I'm still an owner, still a founder, and it's well over 48. They ended up being taken over by a public company and stuff that I had nothing to do with, but billions and billions. And people asked John, they said, did you see that in the beginning? He said, no, but Paul did. He said, we'd be in this little office. It was so small that we would bump elbows turning around, right? And he said, we'd be making calls, and we had a project we needed like $25,000 by Friday. And Paul was calling, getting people to match the money he was putting in, et cetera. And he tells a story. He said, Paul would hang up the phone. He'd turn around, put his pinky by the side of his mouth and say, John, we're going to be $1 billion fund sometime, right? And John said, Paul, we need $25,000 by Friday, right? The difference between that 25,000 and billion with the B was too much to fathom. But again, just like my wife saying, "Hey, I want to be a 49ers cheerleader," my ex-wife, she just had to visualize it and see it. And I visualized and saw us being a company like that. And then at the end of the day, I remember John said to me, he said, "Paul," he said, "you know that with you being a University of Utah dropout," he said, "even with my credibility, I don't have as much." He said, we don't have the background, the credibility, the pedigree to run a multi-billion-dollar company." And I said, "Yeah, John, but if we build it right from the beginning, build it with integrity, build it with a platform that can grow and expand, we're going to attract the right people." And literally within 3 or 4 years, neither John nor myself as the founders, neither one of us were qualified to be the CEO of our own company. We were bringing in $300 million checks from Morgan Stanley. I didn't even qualify to be in some of those rooms, right? But we had JD MBAs that worked for us as we were building this massive enterprise.
Yeah, what was it? What was it? Henry Ford. He said something like, I just have like a little button on my desk that I just press, and then somebody else comes and tells me what I'm supposed to do, or gives me the information,
exactly.
or takes care of what I need to get done. I mean, and I
hired
think
guys smarter than you.
That's it. That's it. I mean, I tell people all the time. I mean, I have a financial services company. We have 1,500 agents, 56 locations. We just opened up another one a couple of days ago, and I always told everybody that, I mean, what happened to me is I was able to find some really smart, amazing people that knew how to sell. I mean, I started when I was 21. I knew nothing about nothing. I never sold anything in my life. And so it's amazing when you find great people. And I think you've done a great job at that. I mean, obviously, coming from a young age, this entrepreneurial spirit that you've always had, the desire to want to do something great and impact the world in some way. You keep dreaming bigger. And I love that. And that's what it's about, man. You're trying to squeeze all the juice out of life that you can. And that's really inspiring, man.
I had a funny story that, like, a few weeks before I retired from Bridge, we had at this time we had 4,000 employees, right? And we had 70 people just in the accounting division alone. And this young kid, I think his name was Andrew. His job, he just barely started, and his one of his jobs that day was to go around to the different partners and have a sign off on our expense reports. And my expense report at the time, I had, front row seats at the NBA games, and, flights to Dubai, and really expensive dinners and all this stuff. And he's like, I'm signing off on the expense report. And he said, "Mr. Hutchinson, do you mind me asking, how did you get your job?" And I realized he didn't know the history of the company. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I've been looking at these, and you have the best job in the whole company. All you do is fly around the world and go to lunch with rich people. How do you get that job?" And so I decided to mess with him a little bit. I said, "Well, Andrew, I used to do what you do." He goes, "Really? You were in the accounting division?" I said, "Yeah." I said, I had a spreadsheet that kept track of all the net asset valuations of all of our investments and all the investors and everything else. I said it was like a 70 megabyte one. I said, and then Adam worked for our auditors. Now, Adam was now his boss, right? I said, Adam worked for the auditors, and Adam came in and said, "Paul, these numbers are all correct, but there's a hell of a lot easier ways of doing it than what you're doing." I said, "So I got replaced by Adam." He goes, "Oh, you did?" I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "Then," I said, I did what Jonathan does." He goes, "Oh, really? You were analyzing all of the assets and everything else?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I had a stack of papers every day at the end of the day. I went home with a huge headache." I said, "So I got replaced by Jonathan." I said, and the only thing I was any good at was going to lunch with rich people. So that's where they put me." He goes, "Wow, that's amazing." He said, "How many people were here when you started?" I said, "Just me and John." Right. So the principle is, you've got to be the head cook and bottle washer in the beginning, but as you grow, find competent people to take those roles. The good thing about that is you know what it looks like to do it, and you know if they're messing up or not, but then you can focus really on the areas that matter.
Well, there's no question, man. It's a beautiful story, and delegation is huge. Your video popped off, just so you know.
What?
Your video
Well, let's fix
left me. Oh,
that.
there we go. All right. I think
But
your
that's
camera might have your actual SRL camera might have stopped
okay.
for
Let's
some
figure out
reason.
what's going there. Well, you
All
know
right.
what? I like that other
It it
even.
it happens, man. I mean, modern technology is beautiful, but it's frustrating as heck sometimes too, man. So people are probably wondering that watch me all the time. They're wondering why I have a blank background. Usually I have a big lion in the back, and I just couldn't get my AirPlay to connect today. I don't know what the heck, why, or
It's because we were supposed to have this black background here and white there and white shirt and black. It's going to look really cool on the
I
final
know
version.
it really. I actually kind of like it. I don't, and plus it's a nice contrast to my black shirt. So, anyways, we were talking about so what I want to do is I want to kind of figure out, like, how does this you know human trafficking story, how does this integrate with your life of business success? I mean, you just make $20 million, you build this incredible fund, you make all this money, you're flying all over the world, you're living really the dream, as most people would call it. And then you go into doing missions to save women from human trafficking and trying to save some kids and all the, like, how does that all come together, man?
Well, let me back up just a little bit. In one of the things my mentor taught me in my early 20s, he said, Paul, he said, now this is back when I'm earning $2,000 a month. He said, Paul, he said, the average person donates about 2% of their money to charity and very little of their time. He said, if you make a decision today that it's not 2%, not even 5, it's over 10 and upwards of 20% of your money and 20% of your time to making a difference in the lives of other people. He said, if you make that commitment now, your ability to create success will be so much easier. And I remember I'm like, wait a minute, can I just wait until I'm rich to start giving my money away? Why do I have to start now? He goes, no. He says, you need to start now so you can be rich. And it was confusing. I really thought that I wanted to be successful so that I could be charitable. I had no idea that I should be charitable so that I could be successful. He said, he said, prove it. He said, you can call it blessings from God, you can call it the universal law of exchange, you can call it karma, you can call it whatever you want. He said, I promise you it works. And I'm telling you right now that my success of a multi-billion-dollar fund and everything else that I've done stands as a testament of that one principle. How does somebody become a partner, let alone a founder of a multi-billion-dollar investment fund? You're not a University of Utah dropout. You go to school for a long time, you get a JD MBA, you start at the bottom, you kiss buck for 20 years in New York, and maybe you become partner. The statistical probability of me being where I am is 0. The only way I can understand it is that I made that decision in my early 20s and it made all the difference. So fast forward, I realized that, I'm trying to give money away, trying to figure out how to help. I'm giving money to the guy on the side of the street in downtown. And I realized maybe he's going to use that for drugs. I don't know. I can't judge, but I didn't know for sure that it was being used for virtuous purposes to really help him and his family. And so I made the conscious decision that I was going to focus on the truly innocent children, a 9-year-old who's in a position completely outside of any decisions that she made. I donated time at a lot of different charities. I actually was working at Primary Children's Hospital for a while, and I was on the Make-A-Wish board of directors for 7 years. In fact, I was the incoming chairman for Make-A-Wish in the area with billions of dollars under management in my fund, massive lifestyle, incoming chairman, and it was a beautiful charity. I mean, we were helping kids with life-threatening illnesses, and I got a phone call from our attorney general. He said, Paul, he said, I know that you're very focused on helping kids. He said, I need to talk to you about something that's pretty hard to listen to. He said it's the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, being human trafficking. And in this case, child trafficking. I was so confused. I couldn't understand how that was even a thing. I thought, if my goal is to fight darkness, if my goal is to have a positive impact in the lives of children, if my daughter was in that kind of a position, that would be the worst thing I could possibly imagine. And so he talked about a Homeland Security agent who had been in Colombia that had found some children down there that he needed some money to help make it to do a rescue, and the government at the time wasn't willing to help because he said that there might not be any Americans involved. This was a Colombian problem. It didn't matter where these kids were from, right? And so I helped to make that happen. And a few weeks later, I get a phone call from the Homeland Security agent. And he said, Paul, he said, I'm in Colombia. There's not just 20 children in Cartagena, there's more than 50. And there's more than 100 children in the surrounding cities. He said, we have a plan that we could rescue all 100 plus children on the same day at the same time. But I need your help in a big way. And I'm thinking he needed money. I said, well, how much do you need? He said, I need you. Can you be in Colombia in 2 days? Now, the Attorney General had known about some of my history. I have a certain set of skills that makes me somewhat safe in a dangerous place. And he said, my Navy SEALs down here can't sit and negotiate what needs to be done. I said, well, what is that? He said that the head trafficker has a piece of property that he wants to develop into a Jeffrey Epstein Island type of a thing. He needs about $8 million to put it together. He believes he can make tens of millions of dollars a year selling these victims to rich Americans. He said, this guy has connections with all the other traffickers, and somehow we need to get him to call them and bring all the children to the same place at the same time. What our plan is you fly down here. You convince him that you're willing to fund his project under one condition. You're going to have a party. You're going to bring a bunch of your rich friends. He's going to provide all of his existing inventory. And you need to prove that he has enough to be able to make this project successful. And if you're happy, then you'll fund his project. Game over. Everybody wins, right? So 2 days later, I'm face to face with the most evil people on the planet and negotiating this deal, telling them I'm willing to fund their project. And halfway through this meeting, one of the traffickers leans forward and he goes, Pablo, I have a gift for you. I said, really, what's your gift? He shows me his phone and there's a picture of an 11-year-old girl on his phone. He said, this is Princess. She's still a virgin. We just took delivery of some. She's my gift for your party. And he started talking about horrible things I could do to this little girl. Now, in the movie, my character in that first part of the movie was the Hispanic. He's the producer of Sound of Freedom, Eduardo Verástegui. And he, my character didn't want to go. He was the rich guy that was funding the operation. Didn't want to go. And the only way that changed my mind was when when Jim Caviezel gave my driver this photo of this 11-year-old girl. And that convinced me to go. In real life, I was already there. I was face to face with the worst people selling children.
Okay. All right. So first of all, man, I mean, were you scared at all? I mean, was this scary? And then the second question I have is, do you ever get scared now at this point? Right. Because you're completely public. You're completely, you told everybody about what you've done. I mean, these guys are still somewhere. I mean, maybe some of them have been arrested, but they're still out there. So
a lot of them are in prison. Well, here's this back up about one day. When I got this phone call, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm raising money for my investment fund. I'm at a 3rd generation billionaire conference, right? And when I got the phone call saying, hey, can you be in Colombia in 2 days? I said, well, how do I need to dress? He says, you need to dress as a uber wealthy playboy interested in funding this project. And I looked down, and at the time I had $2,000 gold-studded cufflinks on, right? I had a suit that cost more than my first car and a a $50,000 watch. I'm like, oh, I think I got the outfit. He said, you need to land in Colombia dressed like that. We'll have our Navy SEALs pick you up. I'm like, great, fantastic. So next morning, boom, I grab my Gucci bag, my aviator Ray-Bans, gold, 18 karat gold ones, and I get on the plane and head down. And I wasn't flying private. I just jumped on the next one down there. And I had a layover in Bogota, and for some reason things got messed up, and they couldn't get into Colombia, into Cartagena that night. So I had to take a taxi to just go get a hotel. And I'm thinking, crap, I'm dressed like a target, And at one point in Colombia, you could pay $200 to have somebody taken out, right? So if I looked like I was worth more than that, I was in trouble. And so I walk out and I hail what I believed was a reputable taxi, and get in it. Said, take me to the Marriott. Boom. He drives, passes the Marriott. I'm like, oh, this is weird. And passes the next exit. And I'm like, oh, I says, oh, Marriott. And he goes, oh no, hotel. I'm like, no, Marriott. 3 exits later, he takes this off ramp into a really dark, seedy area of town. I mean, we're talking prostitutes, drug dealers, thugs, big guys that are hanging out there. And he pulls up in front of this place that looked like you could rent it by the hour. He goes, hotel. I go, no, Marriott. He goes, no, hotel. This was absolutely a setup. There was no way that I was going to make it there without getting beat up. And I was like, shit, how do I deal with this, right? Do I just strangle this guy right here, take over his car? How do I do? Now, I had donated a whole bunch of money to some of the police departments back home. And as part of that, they gave me an honorary, and for some of the other work that I had been doing and helping with some takedown stuff, they gave me a badge, honorary colonel badge. Looked like a real police badge. I had it with me. I pulled it out of my bag and I showed it to him. I said, Policia Marriott ahora, right? Police Marriott now. And so he, of course, turns around and goes to Marriott. But I thought, crap, that was my first day in Colombia. Now, face to face with the traffickers the next day, now we're in a whole new level of evil. However, what's interesting, Daniel, is I thought that these guys would look like the thugs that I saw out in front of that hotel. Tattoos on their faces, earrings in their noses, and whatever. The first trafficker I met was a businessman in a polo shirt, clean shaven. The second I met was this woman, beautiful woman. She ran for Miss Cartagena, right? She was running this fake modeling agency, as you saw in the movie. And I'm like, these aren't traffickers. This isn't what I thought would be. And I realized as we sat down and started talking that they were as wicked as anybody I'd ever spoken to in what they were doing in their vile trade. And when that trafficker showed me that picture, I had this Navy SEAL that was behind me that he was my real bodyguard and my show bodyguard. And he's like, I need to check around the restaurant, make sure we're good. And at the end, after we were debriefing, he said that picture of that little 11-year-old girl looked like my daughter at home. He said, I almost unholstered my weapon and shot him right there. But if I did, we would have lost all those other children. And so, moving forward, I have a book coming out. You can go to the soundoffreedombook.com and pre-order it. It'll be coming out in about a month. That goes through the details of how dangerous some of these missions are. In fact, in the movie, the little girl wasn't at the island. They followed her into the jungle. In real life, she was there. We rescued her. The jungle was in Haiti. We weren't looking for a little girl. We were looking for a little boy. He was kidnapped in front of a church house. His father was serving as a pastor in the area. And that was a whole different team. And we took 8 different rescue missions and put them all together. Andy and I, dressed as doctors, went into that region in Haiti. And we combined that story with another one that happened in Mexico where there was a bunch of guns involved. So a lot of everything in the movie happened, but they were multiple missions. I have led or played a key part in over 70 undercover rescue missions over a period of 10 years.
They don't know what you look like by now, or do you have to put on disguises?
I'm done. I'm done after I came public I
Okay.
had
All right. So
zero
these are
social
70
media.
missions before you came public. So you
Yeah.
obviously didn't come public and then
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be unwise to do the deep cover if you have a public face. In fact, the truth is, right after that Colombia mission, the Homeland Security agent that 𝐓𝐘𝐒 plays part of, he wanted to be on CNN, ABC. He wanted to be the face of anti-child trafficking, and he was already fairly public with a lot of things. And so the rest of us who were doing the deep cover, we removed all access to any of us online. Even my appearance on my own webpage for Bridge, we took all of that down completely. And I wasn't Paul Hutchinson. I was Paul Stone, Paul Steele, Paul Black. It went on. We had this full fake profile that was put together. I had fake web pages and everything else that legitimized who I was. And those disguises changed in different areas. But once we did a full sting in an area, I couldn't go back because there was inevitably people that were there that were still tied to the guys who are in prison now. And so there was a lot of sacrifices that were made in having to go into regions and completely take down those networks and then not being able to ever go back to those areas. So
Well, God bless you for that, man. I mean, Paul, just absolutely incredible. I mean, I have a question though. I mean, do you think that Epstein was killed, or do you think that he committed suicide?
Are you kidding me? We all know the answer to that one.
Okay, all right.
Let me just put it this way, and this will show you how high the totem pole goes. If you are an agency who wants to control the votes of a senator, of a congressman, of a federal judge, if you want to control their votes forever, get that kind of blackmail on them. Get them on a private jet, give them some alcohol, some drugs, get them on film with a 12-year-old, and you control their votes forever. Why is it that we don't have full access to that entire list and all the people that were there and the details of them? Because we'd vote them all out of office if we really knew what was going on. And then they would have to replace them with other people they could control, right? This entire game is all about control. This sex with minors, alcohol, drugs, this is all money, fame. These are all things that are being used by the guys who are really in control to manipulate the votes, to manipulate you and I, taking away our freedoms. In fact, it's not just in politics, it's in Hollywood as well. There is a very clear agenda to take us away from our moral foundations and to take us as humanity to a place where we're not free. This is what liberating humanity is all about. It's all about understanding what that freedom looks like, right? Freedom from slavery in ways that, I mean, they're not just the people in human trafficking today. We're all slaves in some way. We're slaves to our cell phones. We're slaves to our social media. We're slaves to pornography. We're slaves to alcohol. We're slaves to drugs. We're slaves to a system that is controlling and manipulating everything that's coming in here. And it's important that we're all aware of that so we can break free. So the Jeffrey Epstein thing is just a tip of the iceberg of really what's going on.
Yeah, because I mean, let's be honest. I mean, when you empty out all of the prisons in all these other countries and you say that your border is open, so now people are coming over the border freely, and little kids coming over with like addresses on their wrists and getting sent by our American government to places across the country. Little children. What's happening to these children?
Well, here's what's sad. So I'm in Latin America right now. My wife is actually meeting with some senators today. We have, since the movie came out, we've have open opportunities to be able to speak with governments and political leaders all around the world to help them change laws, to change policies, to help keep the kids safe. In every city in Latin America, every day, every major city has children who are disappearing. from parents that don't have the resources to be able to go after those kids and see what's going on. It's been a massive uptick over the last couple of years, massive uptick, completely gone, disappearing. Why? Because the amount of Americans that can come here to engage in sex with children versus the Americans that are already in America, it's a lot more lucrative to send those kids there than to figure out how to get the Americans down here. So what's happening is these children are being transported. And I've seen this, I saw this so much in undercover work. These children are being controlled through fear and manipulation. They're being told, listen, I know where your sister lives. You don't want something very bad to happen to her, do you? I know where your mother lives. You don't want her to be gone, do you? You're going to do exactly what we say. And what we say is, you're going to show up at this border. You're going to have, now this doesn't happen with all of them, but a huge percentage. You really think these unaccompanied minors don't have parents? Do you really think that? Now, yes, there are some poor families that are sending their kids up and whatnot, but a lot of them are coming up for reasons that are not in alignment with the best interest of that child. And these kids are coming up, they have an address, they have a phone number, and many of them are not vetted properly. They're using your taxpayer dollars to transport these children all around the country to their new traffickers. Now, some of them are healthy families, but what's happening? There's a massive percentage of these children that after they arrive at this family, boom, run away. Excuse me. Excuse me. So massive number of these children that as soon as they arrive at these healthy, vetted families, within a week or two, boom, they're gone. They run away. Do you really think these children weren't happy in this family? Or were they told, here's what you do. The second that you're with this family, you figure out a way to leave. Once you leave, then you call this phone number and somebody will come and get you and take you to the place you're really supposed to be, right? This is happening all over. The border issue should have never been a political issue. This is a human trafficking issue. This is a child trafficking issue. And in addition to the children, if you want to really look at what true refugees look like, look in history. Look at pictures of real refugees coming from different countries. You've got a mom, you've got a dad, and you've got some kids. You don't have kids by themselves, and you don't have military-aged males coming in by the droves from our enemy countries. I'll tell you this, I believe wholeheartedly that the reason behind those hundreds and hundreds of thousands of military-aged males coming across the border from our enemy countries, I believe it's an invasion. I truly believe that. And we need to be vigilant about what's happening over the next few months or few years.
Yeah, there's no question. And our, enemy countries, they're buying massive amounts of land, even around our military installations. So yeah. I don't know how, dumb people could actually be to not recognize that and not to say, wait a minute, something's happening. Number one, where I get a little bit heated and a little bit fired up about is the fact that, when we vote these people in office, right? If we, like, for example, if we vote for a president that says it's okay that we have open borders, right? You're saying that I believe in his policies. I believe that we should have an open border because you're voting for this guy and you know that that's his belief. So where does the accountability happen as a voter to say, well, wait a minute, if you're a voter that believes in open borders, you're literally saying that it's okay to traffic humans. You're saying it's okay to allow these things to happen because any sane, rational human being would simply say, well, wait a minute. Of course we want to close the borders. Of course we don't want an invasion. We're the United States of America. I love my country because there's nobody that's voting that's saying I hate my country. They love their country, but they're voting for people that are allowing this stuff to happen. And so we have I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I have an idea of what direction you're voting, but I mean, I'm clearly a Trump supporter because he wants the border closed. Now, he might not be a perfect person. He might say the wrong things. He might, have had a checkered past, whatever. But at this present moment, the guy wants the borders closed, and he wants to protect us from our adversarial countries. And so that's what I get fired up about.
There has never been a president in history that has done more good to fight child trafficking than Donald Trump. Not one. And so, yeah, there's challenges. There's there's egos that are in there. There's a checkered past. We all have a checkered past. We all have egos, every one of us, right? And it got most of us where we are. In fact, I'll tell a little story. You can decide if you want to put this in or not, but it's freaking cool, right? Back to the visualization thing of being whatever you want to. Back in 2016, when election night, it was a couple days before election night, before Trump came in, and I got a call from the same attorney general that called and introduced me to the Homeland Security agent. And he goes, "What's up, Hutch?" I says, "What's up?" He said, "Hey, somebody's got like tickets, VIP tickets to the Trump rally in New York." He said, "We're probably not going to win, but it'd be super cool to go." I'm like, "Oh, that'd be awesome." So boom, we fly in. And now this is my story about how I didn't even have a ticket and ended up with the Trump family that night, right? All through this, right? So we show up, and they didn't have 2 VIP tickets. They only had 1, and it wasn't even VIP, right? It was just a regular entrance. And so he's like, "Crap, what do we do?" I said, "Bro, just tell him I'm your security." I says, we operate like that a lot. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's great." He goes, "All right, hey, we walk up to the gate." He goes, "Hey, this is Agent Hutchinson. He's helping me with security." I says, "Oh great." So they let me in with him. I didn't even have a freaking ticket, right? We walk up, and then there's this area that is like none shall pass, right? There's this special room for the VIP. And he's like, "Hey, I'm the attorney general." And they say, "I don't care if you're the last president. If you don't have this gold VIP ticket, you can't get in here." And so we turn around, and he's like, I said, "Sean, by the end of the night, we will be in that room right up at the front." And his exact words were, "I know, Hutch, that's why I brought you." Right? Okay. So we go, and I've developed a system when I'm doing the undercover work, everything, where I've learned how to identify exactly what I want and then just learn how to listen. In fact, I have a book that'll be coming out next year called "Are You Listening?" with my hand on my heart, not here, but here. And so what I did is I visualized us being in there, felt gratitude for it before it even happened, type of a thing. We separated, we were talking to some people, and all of a sudden, boom, I feel this feeling. I'm like, and I turn around, there's this older couple that's walking in. And we're out just talking to the regular people, nowhere near the VIP area yet. And they looked like they were kind of lost. So I walk over and I said, "Hey, you look lost. Can I help you with something?" And they said, "Yeah, we have these special VIP tickets, and we don't know where it is." Now, with no thoughts, "Oh, I'm going to use your tickets," whatever. I said, "You know what? I know exactly where that area is. I'll take you there." And the lady was a little bit older, so I took her by the arm and we started walking. And she starts talking. She says, "Well, they're supposed to have some special seating for us." And I said, "Well, this room that I'm taking you, it was like standing room only. There's maybe just a few chairs at the front. I might take you to the wrong place." And she goes, "Well, I'm Elizabeth. I'm Donald Trump's older sister." I said, "Oh, you are?" I said, "You know what? Why don't you sit down right here on these couches? I will go find out exactly where you're supposed to be." She goes, "Oh, thank you, Paul." And so I go up, and the none shall pass guys. I said, "Guys," I said, "Elizabeth is here, Donald Trump's older sister. There's supposed to be some seating somewhere for her." So there's supposed to be some seating somewhere for her. And he said, "Oh, I don't know." So he radios his boss, and they come. They say, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm Paul Hutchinson, and Elizabeth's downstairs." He goes, "Well," they radio the boss, literally the head of security for the whole thing. And this guy comes, and now by then everybody's calling me sir, right? And this lady said to him, she said, "This is Paul Hutchinson. He's here with Elizabeth is part of the Trump family. No, I didn't correct her. I just said, yeah, Elizabeth is downstairs and I just need to know where to sit. She goes, well, there's those seats up in front. It's supposed to be specifically for the Trumps, but there's random people there now. So I took a whole new level of posture. I said, listen, I need you to go up and clear out all of those seats. Okay. Put a rope around it, whatever you need. So nobody's in there. I will be back with Elizabeth in about 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right. So I go, I'm calling Reyes. I'm like, hey, G, what's up? I said, you gotta meet me right down here. I said, he's okay, okay. He comes and meets me, and I said, Elizabeth, and to her and her husband, I said, this is my friend Sean. He's the attorney general. And she goes, oh, Sean, Paul's been such a good friend for us. And Sean's like, yeah, Paul's that way. And so I took her by the arm. He took the husband, and we walked him up to the VIP area. Now the guards are literally clearing people out of the way, making room for us to go up to this special VIP area. They open up the rope. They set us in there with them. And I'm like, oh, crap, we're not supposed to be here, right? I said, Elizabeth, can I go get you a drink or something? She goes, yeah, go get me a gin and tonic. So I go get her a drink. I come back. By then, Robert Trump is there, Donald Trump's older brother. And Elizabeth said, Robert, this is my friend Paul Hutchinson and his friend Sean, and I would like them to sit with our family. And Robert says, boys, welcome to the Trump family. And so we're sitting in this VIP area while the whole screen turns red that night. We win the elections. We get introduced to Donald by his own family. So anyway, and then 4 o'clock in the morning, we had won the election. Robert Trump's wife said, hey, Paul, do you know we're kind of hungry. You know anything that's open? I'm on my Yelp. I'm like, oh, there's Ray's Pizza's open. I said, I'll buy. She's like, Paul's buying, right? So literally they put me and Sean and the Trump family in this, we've got this entourage team, and they shut down the pizza place. And we literally, Donald wasn't there at this because he's in the Secret Service, but we're having pizza with them right after we won the election.
So cool, man. Well, what an amazing story, man. Look, and it just shows the power of visualization, the power of communication, right? And you did listen with your heart, and you did listen, and you did figure out a way to get them what they wanted. And ultimately they won and you won. Everybody wins. And by the way, that's the perfect definition of a sales process. Is I'm going to get you what you want, and ultimately if I can get you what you want, I'm going to get what I want, and everybody wins. I love win-win situations. And what an amazing story. Paul, I could do this another 3 hours. I love the fact that we got to talk about some really serious issues. You have an amazing story. I love that you got to share with us, how you did what you did and how you got to where you got to. And also the wonderful humanitarian efforts that you're creating in your life. And you're really making a difference, man. And I'm just telling you from me to you, that I want to see how I can help in some way, possible way. So we're going to talk offline, and maybe you could maybe just share a little bit about how people can get involved and how we can help in this effort of number one, saving America, but at the same time saving these kids, man. I mean, let's be honest, man. These kids have they're little kids. Whether they're little kids or they're teenager kids or they're adult kids. I mean, they're human beings, and I just think that at some point in time, we all got to take accountability and say, stop the madness, man. This is crazy. This is America. This shit shouldn't be going on. We should not have child trafficking in America. We should not have open borders in America. We should not have, our adversaries just crossing the border. We should not have Venezuela emptying the prisons to send their criminals to America. I mean, like, who votes for somebody that does that, right? And so enough is enough. And how can we help? How can we reach you? And close us out here.
I would love that. I literally have about 30 seconds before my battery dies on my computer. So let me plug it in, and and then I'll do that. Hold, because I don't want it to die in the middle of this. So hold on a second. Okay. So sorry. Number one.
Oh. Say that again. That little.
Yes. Well, I'm super grateful for this time with your audience. And yes, there's so many ways that people can help. Number one, Our foundation is the Child Liberation Foundation. You can go to liberatechildren.org, liberatechildren.org, and you can figure out how to get involved. You can donate money, you can donate time, you can connect us with people, you can be a part of building one of the safe houses. There's so many good things that you can do as part of the Child Liberation Foundation. And beyond that, sorry, I ran to go get my plug. So, and beyond that, you can follow me at Liberating Humanity. You can go to on Instagram or TikTok or even the webpage. Just Liberating Humanity is the handle on all of those. You can go to liberatinghumanity.com and get lots of information on how to keep your children safe. You can even go to soundoffreedombook.com and pre-register for the Sound of Freedom book coming out that's got so much good information on keeping your family safe, on being aware of this, of things that we can do to come together to fight this evil and to win. I believe we can win at this. And so those are, and a side thing on the Liberating Humanity website, not only are we helping to raise money for the Child Liberation Foundation, but you can also find some information on personal transformation activities and retreats and things like that. We host them about once a month here in Latin America, 4 and 5 day fully immersive transformational experiences. We use breath work and guided meditation and things like that. That is a whole other long conversation, but you can get some information online about that as well.
Well, like I said, Paul, I have a feeling me and you are going to become very, very good friends in our futures. And there's no question that this is not the last you'll see of me. Guys like you are just are God sent. And so thank you for all you do. Thank you for your incredible amount of courage, man, and conviction and passion to do what you do. And this has just been an incredible conversation. We're going to do this again. I mean, I think we should schedule another one for, another, 3, 4, 5 months out, because I really believe there's so much more to unpack that we didn't unpack. There's so much even more that we need to talk about. I really want to dive deep, even into your retreats and know more about that, because I know, look, my audience is, we are all a bunch of self-improvement, crazy people that want a better life and want to create a better life and build a greater life. And so this is right up our alley. So I'm asking everybody watching, listening, please go out there and say hello to Paul, give him a little, message of thank you so much for all your wisdom, but also all your courage, man. It takes some guts to do what you do and what you've done. I mean, 70 missions, man. Give me a break. It's awesome. And I do appreciate the fact too that, you get it, I mean, you really get it, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, self-improvement standpoint, and then, really trying to make a difference in the world. You've done that, Paul, and we salute you, man. So with that said, with everybody, as always, I'm always telling you guys, continue to dream bigger than ever. Get after it, because if you don't get after it, nothing happens, right? You got to take action, get after it, but most importantly, do it now. God bless you. We'll see you at the top.